The illusion of the finish line: most people chase goals as if reaching them will bring fulfillment. But the finish line always moves. We live in a world obsessed with achievement. From a young age, we're told to set goals, to aim high, to dream big. And so, we do. We tell ourselves that once we get that promotion, once we lose that weight, once we buy that house, then we'll finally be happy. Then we'll finally feel enough. But the truth is, every time we reach one finish line, another appears. The sense of completion lasts only for a moment before our minds ask, what's next? The satisfaction fades because goals are designed to be temporary milestones, not lasting states of being. We confuse the end of a race with the end of the journey. This endless pursuit creates a silent exhaustion. We measure our worth by achievements that constantly move further away. We believe progress is linear, but real growth is not a straight path. It's cyclical, ever-evolving, and deeply human. Yet we keep sprinting toward goals that never stay still. When we finally hit the mark, it often doesn't feel the way we imagined. The joy is fleeting, replaced by an emptiness we can't quite explain. That's because fulfillment doesn't come from reaching the goal. It comes from finding meaning in the process of getting there. The finish line was never meant to be the prize. It was meant to be a guidepost. The illusion of the finish line tricks us into thinking success is an event. It isn't. Success is a state of being, built through daily actions, habits, and systems that reflect our values. It's not about one moment of triumph, but about the kind of person we become on the way. When we chase only the finish line, we miss the race itself. We rush past the lessons, the relationships, the growth that happens along the way. We forget that the point of the journey is not to arrive, but to evolve. So perhaps the problem isn't that we haven't reached the finish line yet. The problem is believing that there's only one. The dopamine trap goals feel good, at least in the beginning. The moment we set one, our brains light up with anticipation. We imagine the outcome, the applause, the sense of accomplishment. That little rush we feel. That's dopamine, the chemical of motivation, reward, and expectation. It fuels us to start, but rarely to sustain. The problem is dopamine isn't designed for fulfillment, it's designed for pursuit. It rewards us not when we achieve, but when we anticipate achieving. So we fall in love with the idea of progress more than progress itself. We chase the high of almost there. And when the excitement fades, so does our discipline. Think about the last time you set a goal. At first, you were all in, you planned, you visualized, you worked harder than ever. But as time passed, the emotional spark dulled. What once felt inspiring now felt like a burden. That's the dopamine trap at work. Our brains lose interest when the thrill of novelty disappears. This is why so many people start strong and finish weak. The system of motivation built on emotion is inherently unstable. When the high wears off, we confuse boredom for failure. We assume we've lost passion, when really we've just lost the chemical rush that got us started. We live in a culture that glorifies goals because they make for exciting stories. I ran a marathon. I started a business. I hit 1 million followers. But those stories never mention the days in between, the unglamorous, repetitive systems that actually made it possible. Because systems don't trigger dopamine, they trigger discipline. When we rely on goals alone, we build our motivation on fragile ground. The moment we don't feel the spark, we stop. But when we rely on systems, we don't need to feel motivated. We just need to follow the process. Systems make progress inevitable, even on days when passion is nowhere to be found. The trap isn't in wanting more, it's in thinking that the next achievement will fix the emptiness of the last one. We chase new goals like a gambler chasing wins, forgetting that the game itself is rigged to keep us playing. Freedom comes when we step out of the dopamine cycle. When we stop asking, what will I get? And start asking, who am I becoming while I work? Because that's the only question that breaks the trap and turns motion into meaning. Winners and losers share the same goals. Every competitor wants to win. Every student wants to graduate. Every entrepreneur wants success. The goal itself is never what separates people. It's the system they build to reach it. Winners and losers often start with the same dream, but it's what happens between the start and the finish that defines the outcome. Think about it. Every Olympic runner wants the gold medal. Every candidate wants the job. Every author wants the bestseller. The goal is universal, but results are not. If goals alone guaranteed success, everyone who set one would win. Clearly they don't, because a goal is just a direction, not a plan. The real difference lies in the invisible routines, the habits, and the mindset that operate when no one is watching. Winners build systems that make progress automatic. Losers depend on motivation that comes and goes. Winners wake up and follow their process. Losers wake up and chase their mood. The beauty of systems is that they work whether you feel like it or not. They don't care about your emotions, they care about your consistency. A runner's system is not the medal, it's the training schedule. A writer's system is not the published book, it's the daily writing habit. Success is not the goal achieved, it's the system perfected. When you build a system, you stop negotiating with yourself. You no longer need to ask, should I do this today? The system answers for you. It removes willpower from the equation and replaces it with rhythm. Systems create structure, goals create pressure. One sustains you, the other drains you. Most people fail not because they lack ambition, but because they rely on goals to carry them. Goals inspire action, but systems create traction. Without traction, inspiration slips. The winner doesn't have a bigger dream. They have a better design for making the dream real. It's easy to admire someone's success and then assume they just wanted it more. But wanting is cheap. Systems are expensive. They cost time, focus, and patience. They require showing up when the results aren't visible yet. But that's what makes them powerful. They compound quietly until the results become undeniable. So if winners and losers share the same goals, then the question isn't what you want to achieve. It's how you've built your days to make it inevitable. Because in the end, success doesn't come from setting goals. It comes from designing a life that makes reaching them unavoidable. Identity over outcome. Goals focus on what you want to achieve. Systems focus on who you want to become. Most people build their goals around outcomes. I want to lose weight. I want to make more money. I want to be successful. But outcomes are fragile because they depend on external validation. Identity, on the other hand, is internal. It's who you believe you are when no one is watching. When you chase outcomes, every success or failure becomes a reflection of your worth. If you achieve the goal, you feel proud. If you don't, you feel ashamed. It's a constant cycle of self-judgment. But when you shift focus to identity, you detach from the scoreboard and connect with the person you are becoming. The process becomes personal, not performative. Identity-based systems are powerful because they align your actions with your beliefs. If you tell yourself, I want to run a marathon, that's an outcome. But if you tell yourself, I am a runner, that's identity. One requires constant motivation, the other creates automatic behavior. We naturally act in ways that prove our identity true. When your identity drives your actions, consistency becomes easier. You don't have to fight with yourself to do what's right. You just do what fits who you are. The diet, the practice, the discipline, they all become expressions of your identity, not obligations tied to a temporary goal. This shift changes the question from, what do I need to do to succeed, to what kind of person would succeed at this? Once you answer that, your system becomes clear. You stop building habits for results and start building habits for alignment. You become guided by who you want to be, not what you want to get. Outcomes fade, but identity compounds. You can achieve a goal and lose it the next day, win the award, lose motivation, start over. But if you've built an identity that sustains the behavior, you don't have to start again, you just continue. The result becomes a milestone, not a conclusion. The greatest trap in goal setting is believing that success is something you chase. In truth, it's something you embody. When you focus on identity, you stop asking, how far can I go? And start asking, how deeply can I live this? That's where real growth begins. So the next time you set a goal, don't ask, what do I want to achieve? Ask instead, who do I want to become? Because when you build from identity, every step forward feels natural, and every goal simply becomes proof of who you already are. Success as a byproduct success was never meant to be the target. It's what happens when your systems work. When you stop chasing outcomes and start refining the process, success arrives quietly, almost as an afterthought. It's the shadow cast by consistent effort, not the trophy you hold up at the end. The most successful people rarely talk about winning, they talk about their craft. They obsess over the details, the repetitions, the small daily improvements that seem invisible to everyone else. While others chase recognition, they chase refinement. Because they understand that excellence is not an act, it's a habit. When you build a system rooted in discipline, learning, and reflection, results become inevitable. You don't have to hope for success, you design for it. Each day becomes a data point in a larger equation that always adds up to growth. The goal stops being the outcome and becomes the evolution of the process itself. Success, when treated as a byproduct, becomes lighter. You no longer carry the pressure of performing, you carry the purpose of progressing. You don't fear failure because failure simply becomes feedback, a necessary signal to adjust the system. When you fall in love with the process, you fall out of fear. We've been conditioned to believe that success is something you chase, like a finish line you must cross before someone else does. But real success doesn't live at the end of a race. It lives in the rhythm of showing up, in the courage to improve, in the quiet repetition of doing what matters even when no one's watching. The irony is, when you stop obsessing over success, you often achieve more of it. When your mind is free from anxiety about the outcome, you perform better. You think clearer. You take smarter risks. The absence of pressure creates the presence of excellence. That's the paradox of process. It gives you the results you were too focused to get before. Success as a byproduct reminds us that meaning doesn't come from arrival. It comes from alignment. When your actions, values, and purpose move in the same direction, results take care of themselves. You don't need to chase, you simply need to continue. So stop treating success as a destination. Build systems that reflect who you are and what you value. Because when your system is right, success has no choice, it follows. Consistency beats intensity. We love intensity. It's dramatic, it's exciting, it feels powerful. We idolize the all-nighters, the sudden transformations, the stories of people who went all in and changed their lives overnight. But real progress rarely looks like that. Real growth is quiet. It's found in the repetition of ordinary actions done consistently over time. Intensity makes you look committed. Consistency makes you become committed. One burns bright and fades fast. The other builds momentum slowly but never stops. Anyone can push hard for a week. Very few can show up for a year. The ones who do, those are the ones who win. Consistency isn't glamorous because it lacks immediate reward. You go to the gym and see no change. You write for a month and get no recognition. You save money and it barely grows. But each small effort compounds. Over time, the invisible becomes visible, and what once looked like nothing becomes something extraordinary. Intensity depends on emotion. Consistency depends on structure. When you rely on emotion, you wait for motivation to strike. When you rely on structure, you remove the need for it. Systems create consistency because they transform effort into rhythm. You no longer ask yourself, should I do this today? You just do it because it's who you are. Most people overestimate what they can do in a day and underestimate what they can do in a year. Intensity chases fast results. Consistency builds lasting ones. The weight you lift once doesn't make you strong. It's the 1,000 lifts that do. The speech you give once doesn't make you a communicator. It's the practice you repeat that does. Consistency teaches patience. It humbles you into realizing that mastery takes time. It forces you to let go of quick wins and focus on slow, steady growth. The beauty of it is that progress becomes predictable. You no longer need miracles, you just need maintenance. Intensity can impress others, consistency transforms you. It's not about doing more, it's about doing enough regularly until it becomes part of your identity. Over time, consistent actions build unshakable confidence because they remind you that you can trust yourself to show up. So stop chasing the thrill of intensity, build the quiet power of consistency. Because the ones who endure, who stay when others quit, who keep moving forward even when the excitement fades, they are the ones who turn systems into success. Detach from the result, commit to the process. When you attach your happiness to an outcome, you hand your peace over to something you can't control. The goal becomes a condition for feeling good. I'll be proud when I hit that number. I'll feel successful when I reach that milestone. But the truth is, the moment you make joy conditional, you delay it indefinitely. You live in a waiting room, always chasing the next approval. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring, it means you stop clinging. It means you give your best without letting the result define your worth. You shift your energy from what might happen to what you can do right now. That's where the real power is, inside the process, not beyond it. The process is where learning happens, it's where resilience grows, it's where the transformation actually takes place. The outcome is just evidence of what you've already become. When you fall in love with the process, you find fulfillment in progress, not perfection. Every step becomes meaningful, even the ones that feel like failure. Failure only hurts when your identity is tied to the result. But when you commit to the process, failure becomes data. It becomes a teacher, not a judge. You start asking, what can I learn? Instead of, what did I lose? That shift changes everything. It turns pain into progress. The best performers in any field share this mindset. They play to express, not to impress. They understand that their craft is not a performance for others, but a commitment to themselves. Their focus isn't on the trophy, it's on the daily discipline that makes the trophy inevitable. When you commit to the process, you build emotional endurance. You stop riding the highs and lows of temporary wins and losses. You develop stability, a quiet confidence that comes from knowing your worth isn't determined by outcomes but by effort. You become grounded in growth. The irony is, the more you detach from the result, the better your results become. Without fear or pressure, you think clearer, act smarter, and stay longer. You replace anxiety with attention. The absence of desperation creates the presence of excellence. So don't chase the outcome. Chase the craft, let go of the need to prove, and hold on to the desire to improve. Because when you stop trying to control the finish line and start trusting the process, you don't just achieve more, you've become more. Redefine winning. We've been taught that winning is about being first, being best, or being recognized. We measure victory by comparison, as if someone else's loss is required for our success. But true winning has nothing to do with others. It's about who you become in the process of striving. It's not about the scoreboard, it's about the standard you hold yourself to. Real winning is quiet. It happens long before the results are seen, in the choices you make when no one is watching. It's the decision to keep going when quitting feels easier. It's the integrity to do the work right, not fast. It's waking up one more day and giving your best even when yesterday's effort went unnoticed. That's what winning actually looks like. When you redefine winning, you stop chasing validation and start seeking alignment. You stop asking, did I beat them? And start asking, did I honor who I'm trying to become? That question shifts your focus from competition to contribution, from proving something to improving something. Winning in its truest form is internal. It's the peace that comes from knowing you gave your all with intention and integrity. It's realizing that the journey itself has already made you stronger, wiser, more capable. The victory isn't in the medal, it's in the mastery. The danger of defining winning only by outcomes is that it makes every setback feel like a loss. But when winning is redefined as growth, even failure counts. You start to see challenges not as threats to your worth, but as opportunities to refine your system and deepen your strength. Redefining winning also means redefining pace. You realize you don't have to rush to keep up with anyone else's timeline. Your success can arrive at your own speed because you're not running their race. You're running yours. The finish line is not fixed. It moves with your evolution. When you live this way, you stop living in tension. The pressure fades because the point is no longer to arrive, it's to evolve. Every step forward becomes a form of victory, not because it's perfect, but because it's progress. You win every time you choose growth over comfort. So, if you must chase something, chase depth over distance. Chase better, not best. Winning isn't about finishing ahead of others. It's about showing up as a stronger version of yourself each day. Because when your definition of winning is growth, you never really lose, you just keep becoming.